Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Felt, and today we have a special treat for you, for all you music enthusiasts out there. And before I continue, hopefully I will say your name correctly. Is it Dak Dubois?
Dak Dubois.
Dak Dubois. Okay.
Dubois, yeah.
Just like Marge Simpson's last name. Dubois.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Our guest on the show today is none other than Doc Dubois, the Milwaukee-based artist who's been making waves with his unique blend of modern indie pop, 70s funk and soul, and a touch of 60s and 70s psychedelia. His self-titled album, a testament to his multifaceted talents, was entirely crafted in the comfort of his own apartment turned studio. It was released in April of 23. What makes Doc truly exceptional is his live performances. He's not alone on stage. He's joined by a rotating cast of talented local musicians, collectively known as Doc Dubois and Company. Their shows are a fusion of funk-driven jammy vibes and captivating crowd engagement, promising an unforgettable experience. One of his standout singles, Portland, even premiered on Radio Milwaukee, and his album has been lauded as an imaginative, colorful exercise by Milwaukee breaking and entering. If you're eager to dive into his world of music, you'll be delighted to know that his latest album is available on all major streaming platforms. So stay tuned as we dive into a conversation, exploring the intricate stories behind his music, the vibrant energy he brings to the stage. This is an episode you won't want to miss, so let's jump right in and discover the magic of Doc Dubois. So welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man.
Cool. So let's get the listeners a little bit more in depth about your music origin story. How did you get started into music, and how did you land where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. So, I started learning guitar when I was like 11 years old. I really enjoyed the sound of like the 60s and the 70s and a lot of different like kind of alternative and indie sounds too. I'm 29 years old, so at the time like early Arctic Monkeys, Strokes, Flaming Lips, stuff like that. A lot of that really got me into music. I started learning guitar at like 11, played a lot, throughout my teenage years. I had a stepdad who was a drummer, and he would bring me out to all of these open jams. And so I started playing with a bunch of like blues guys and stuff once I was about 16, and interesting to start playing in bars at that age too. But yeah, over the years, I just kind of crafted more and more of myself as a musician and figured out how to sing better and play all the other instruments too. But yeah, still guitar is kind of like my main love, but yeah, I love getting to do everything and kind of write it all out. So
Wonderful. So you said and other instruments. So what other instruments do you play besides guitar?
Yeah, so I play drums, I play keys, I play bass, pretty much anything that has strings on it. I feel like I can kind of get down pretty quickly. So like mandolin, ukulele, kind of stuff like that, a little banjo. But yeah, pretty much anything with strings, I'll try ripping. So
cool, very cool. Have you ever tried like the non-fretted instruments like violin, cello, and the such?
No, I don't think I came from that level of prestige as a child. So no, I haven't tried, but I understand they're just tuned differently. They're tuned in fourths instead of fifths. So
right.
Feel like that'd be pretty easy. I play slide guitar, so kind of used to not using frets with that. So
cool, very cool. And have you implemented slide into any of your songs?
I actually haven't. No.
Okay.
I've done it a couple of times with live. I know last night we had a show at Ope, and at one point I grabbed one of my drummer's drumsticks and started playing slide guitar with that. So that was pretty cool.
Very cool.
It's just on my SG too, and I have an SG that's awesome for playing. It sucks for slide, but it somehow sounded okay last night. So
I haven't really heard anybody using a wooden drumstick for a slide. Must be an interesting setup.
It was the first time I ever tried it. So
yeah.
we had a 2-hour set. We had to stretch it out. And,
gotcha.
I looked at the boys. I was like, we're going to get weird. So we got weird. People like it when we get weird. So
yeah, right. I was going to say, I bet the audience was enjoying it. I bet.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So how long has this has this group been kind of like together? I know it's mostly you and you have this rotating set of musicians, but as this entity, how long has this been going on?
Just 6 months. So
Oh,
I
okay.
launched the album 6 months ago, and that was kind of my first time doing this. Before that, I was kind of a journeyman, like guitarist. I would just play guitar in a lot of different bands, whether kind of a lot of across a lot of different genres. But I moved down to Milwaukee from the Fox Cities back about a little over a year ago, and started working on this album, and knew that I kind of wanted to like squeak out in this scene down here, and just try something new with it. So really glad I did. It's been really successful so far, and people have taken it really nicely. So
Excellent. So, kind of one of my questions is talking about the local scene. So, it seems like you're getting a positive reaction from the scene, which is great. What are some other positives that you've been kind of noticing about the local scene for you?
oh man, I got so many homies in this scene, and it's been crazy to just really be in a new place and get to meet all of them. Yeah, I've gotten to collaborate with quite a few different artists, and I think getting to do recording stuff is great too. But I just love how diverse the scene is. Honestly, there's so many talented people from so many different like genres and subgenres that I think it makes it such an intricate scene in Milwaukee here. And I love getting to see it, man. There's just so much talent, and people are just incredible songwriters and players in general. So
Yeah, there's a lot of great talent out there in the Milwaukee and outing areas, all throughout Wisconsin. There's just a lot of great musicians out here. What are some like the struggles that you've kind of seen in the local scene, though, that maybe needs help to help it make it stronger?
yeah, I don't know. I guess I haven't really experienced like a lot of struggles necessarily. I feel like selling merch is kind of hard, but I feel like that's kind of everybody has that
Right.
situation. I also know that we're like in an interesting financial situation as far as like the world's concerned right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be like luring that over anybody's head. But
No.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like everybody's really cool, and it doesn't feel grossly competitive or anything like that. Like, um, yeah, I don't know. I guess I think I wish that the hip hop and R&B scene had a little bit more support from some of the faces that I kind of see in the circles that I play in and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I love getting to play across different scenes and work with other people. And I mean, they definitely have a lot of support, but I feel like there's just so much untapped talent there that I wish that we could almost support those people a little bit better. But
Right.
that's honestly my only like gripe. So
I mean, we're supposed to be a melting pot of everything, right?
yeah, totally, man. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Now, talking a little bit about this new album that came out in April. It's, we're like at the end of October with this recording of this interview. So it's been, like you said, about 6 months. So why don't we talk the listeners through the journey of creating this project? How did you get started? How did you put the things together, like your recording equipment and things of that nature? How did it go being in an apartment? Is the drums, you said you're a drummer, so are these live drums or are these program drums? Can I talk about all the details of this album?
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, so in I have a studio in our apartment here, and yeah, I just sound dampened a ton of it, just added a ton of foam and stuff. But I live tracked all the drumming. Usually I'll do like an 8 mic setup on the kit. I'll do like a mono overhead. I'll individually mic up the hi-hat and like the ride cymbal. So pretty much just the crash is coming through on the overhead as well as like the overall blend of all the drums.
Mm-hmm.
I just single mic the kick, double mic the snare, one on top, one on bottom, toms individually, and that's kind of like the general thing. I think having your mic placement's the best way to go because you don't want things to be out of phase or to like not come through sounding right.
Right.
So that kind of took me a little while to figure that out because this is like my first time really like recording to this capacity. So yeah, I just had to keep messing stuff up. And even on that album, when I listened to it, I'm like, yeah, I've been doing things differently since I did recorded that album. But yeah, I feel like I started recording it because I had played in a lot of other bands, and I was like, I think I could do this all by myself. And I kind of wanted to take that on as like a little bit of an experience thing, and I'm really glad I did because it really taught me. I think it made me a lot better of a guitarist in general, getting to really look at every single instrument and what it does to add to like the general sound of something. And I think that, the end result is always what's the most important thing.
Right.
Uh, that being said, we live above like a venue too.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I got to really learn a lot about noise gates. And I also learned a lot about retracking. So
Yeah.
and then there's a church across the street that's very old, and it rings bells like hell, man.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. So
Did you sample any of that and put it in your songs?
I actually didn't know. I had a friend that I was playing, and I had him as a rhythm guitarist for like a few shows. And every time he'd come over to like jam and stuff, he'd always be like, "Oh, dude, the bell's going off. I got to go record this." And he'd like run outside and record it. And then he actually used it in one of his songs. And I thought that was really interesting. So
very cool.
Yeah, he was more nerdy about it than I was. I always see it as a nuisance. I'm like, no, whatever. I don't need that bell, So the only bell I want is off of a ride, man.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Now, you said you live above a venue. Do you have other neighbors, or is it just the venue below you and you're sitting up on top of it?
Yeah, it's just the venue below us. We're on top. So, and I have a lot of sound equipment here. So when it comes nights to jamming, it's, I usually try to like do 2 jams a month where I bring in different artists and just like, just mess around, like see whatever happens. Which has been really great too, to like get to meet a lot of different people in the scene and just like having that space. And having people in for that is just honestly like the coolest thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of times we're pretty loud, and they're pretty loud, and our bedroom and our living room are like on top of it. So we have a 3rd floor, and that's where that is. So it's pretty.
Okay.
You got like a whole barrier. It's never too bad. Sometimes you'll have some DJs come through with like and bring like more subs or whatever.
Right.
And you could feel it in like the whole house. It's crazy. But yeah, it's like getting your back massaged when you're sleeping. So it's not bad, man. It's not bad.
Cool. Very cool. So you're doing this recording by yourself. So what kind of, for the people out there that are interested in like the recording aspect of it, like what are you using for like your DAW and your interfaces and stuff like that? Is it all in one, or is it like outboard stuff? What are you doing with that stuff?
Yeah, so I have I just have like a big Scarlett, like the Focusrite, the 18 input one, just like the massive box. And so I use that for pretty much all my drumming. And then I do have like I had to look, a universal audio, just like a Volt. I just use that on the separate side of the space, so I don't have to like unplug anything. And I'll just, if I'm doing like quick vocal touch-ups, or if I'm just like single micing something, I'll use that, because that's like where I have my desk and stuff. And then and then I also have reel-to-reel as well. Nice. And I haven't really gotten a ton of chances to mess with that yet. But eventually what I'm going to do is, I think, like pre-mastering. Once I have my mixes, I'll run it through there, kind of catch some of the, tube warmth that you get off of it and stuff. Because it's just a 4-track. It's not anything crazy, but it's enough to run your stereo mixes through and kind of add that bit extra, or even just do it on an instrumental basis. Like if I have a guitar and I want it to get really trippy, put it through there, and then just kind of like casually grab the tape as it comes through to kind of like wobble and slow it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I've been really busy, and I probably have like another 10, 12 songs recorded right now. And I plan on releasing an EP at the end of December.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Which is going to be cool. And that one's going to be a bit different, because I'm going to try to, so the first album was all just me by myself on everything, but I'm trying to get a bunch of different features from the city of Milwaukee on that EP, which is going to be cool, because like my friend Wave Chappelle is going to be on it. I have a couple of other artists that I've been working with too. And then I'd love to get like another rapper on it, or like R&B singer or something. And I got a few friends that I've definitely had in mind, but yeah, just got to feel it out,
Yeah, definitely. So let's kind of go back to the one that you just released in April and kind of talk about some of the songs on there. Sure. Are there some songs that you'd like the listeners to kind of hear on the podcast so they can go and check it out on Bandcamp or other streaming sites?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's kind of it's like a concept album too. So the whole thing, like front to back, kind of tells a story, and it really goes through the motions. So to like name out one specific song, I think would be a little a little crazy. I know the most popular songs off that album are like Seaside and Portland. So I feel like that's kind of like a good little surface level place to get into with it.
Okay.
But the album, like front to back, it's only 8 songs and it's like 36 minutes or something like that. So it's pretty easy to get through. It's really digestible. The music on it is, I wanted to make sure that it would be something that has a lot of moments where like the ear candy kind of hits you, and you got good hooks, good overall feel. I feel like in my playing, I kind of, in my writing, I feel like I kind of emphasize a lot of like minor 7 chords and stuff. So it really gives you that like kind of classic alternative indie sound. But then it's pretty imaginative and really jumps across a lot of different cultures as far as like music's concerned, whether it be like more of an Eastern sound or kind of adding more of a Latin feel on something. And
Right.
then all of like the rhythm section stuff is super funky. So it's really
So
easy to get into.
yeah, so you call this basically a journey album. So what is the journey that this album is supposed to take the listener through?
Oh man, I think I just wanted it to resonate with any kind of like feeling of coming of age, and really just kind of when everything kind of starts clicking, as we're adults and our brains kind of start forming a little bit more. I wanted to kind of go over that and the things that we grieve with, but also the things that we can be excited about too. And that's kind of the place that I was in when I wrote and recorded all of it. And and I feel like it definitely can be, or you could just put it on when you got some homies over and you're hanging out, and it's just easy listening. So
excellent. So I'll put a few of those on there. Is there any ones that you really want me to put on the podcast, or should I just randomly pick a few?
Yeah, I feel like Seaside, Portland, those two are pretty cool. People definitely usually, I feel like those kind of get a lot of play. Soul is really cool too. It's an instrumental. It's the opener for the album too.
Mm-hmm.
But that one's just really interesting. It's got a lot of like Phrygian scale usage, but it's pretty light, and it really sticks to kind of more like funky kind of minor like pentatonic box kind of feel stuff too from like a bass perspective. So
right.
it's really nice and easygoing.
Producers and beat makers of Milwaukee, it is time for the 2024 Big Beat MKE Beat Battle Tournament, taking place at the Jackalope Lounge at the Wicked Hop in Milwaukee's 3rd Ward on Thursday nights between April 25th and June 13th. Producers are going to go head-to-head in 3 one-minute rounds to determine who is going to move on to the next round of the tournament with some amazing prizes from some great sponsors. Don't forget that you can submit your beats today at breakingandentering.net through March 31st.
Yeah, Phrygian's kind of known as like the happy major sound because it's got that raised fourth in it. So it's a very cool scale. Can be used over a lot of different things, and a lot of great songs over the years, over the decades, have been using that mode a lot. So very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely one of my favorites, especially with like being a little bit more of a psychedelic artist too. It really gives it that like kind of gypsy, Spanishy, Middle Eastern feel to it too.
So what would be like some influences of yours that would be in that kind of genre that the listeners would be kind of understanding where that's coming from?
Yeah, I feel like from a modern perspective, I'd say like Krungbin. I would say like Peach Pit, the band Crumb. And then I have a lot of like kind of old school funky feels in it too. So like think like Funkadelic, even like a little Herbie Hancock, like Headhunters album,
Right.
And I would say like a little bit of Jimi Hendrix. It definitely it's some of the tonalities are like throwback feel stuff for sure. But it's like hard to beat the 60s and 70s out of you when it's like so imprinted in your brain, you know?
Right. So, if I remember right, you said you're like in your mid 20s now, and you started when you were 11. So
Yeah.
that was like early 2000-ish, I would think. Am I thinking that right?
Yeah, for sure. I started playing in 2006. I'm 29.
Yeah. Okay. So 2006. So when you were 11, what would be like some of the music that was influenced you at that young of an age?
Oh man, it was just Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, you know, kind of all of that stuff in general. I remember hearing that music and just being like, this is insane. And then eventually, once I got an acoustic and I was like 13, 14, I really became obsessed with Nirvana. I feel like everybody has to go through a Nirvana phase. And that was my Nirvana phase. And I loved learning all of their music because it was simple enough for me to play it and sing with it. And that kind of where it was at. And then eventually, as I got older, my taste kind of expanded out from there. And I really started listening to a lot of like jazz and funk and fusion and stuff like that. And a lot of different, like, there's still all these elements of like psychedelia, but it wasn't as like prominent in it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, definitely all that stuff. And then a lot of like West Coast indie stuff I really started getting down on probably about 10 years ago. And I feel like I really haven't ever lost that. So
wonderful. It's great to hear about musicians that start somewhere and they expand out and just try to search out everything that they can that really, you know, helps them become a better musician.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. As I'm getting closer to the end here with these questions, one of them is a work-life balance. So we haven't really talked much about what else you do. Are you doing music full-time? Do you have like a side job or a day job that kind of conflicts with you making music? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I actually just left my full-time job a couple of weeks ago to really launch into this music thing full-time. And yeah, it was really hard to record and just play a lot of gigs too. I think over the summer I probably played maybe like 30 some gigs with a full-time job, and that was a ton. So yeah, I'm definitely kind of glad I'm making this decision right now. I'm not broke yet, so I feel like I'm still glad. But once that hits, I think then I'll be a little bit scared. But I just wanted to take a couple of months and really dive into it, work on content, and kind of just see what I can do as far as, you know, getting the word out there on you know, what I'm doing and stuff. And yeah, so the balance is really hard for sure. I think having full-time job too, and you know, the demands that come with a full-time job, it's really hard to balance those things out. So, but yeah, definitely eventually it caught up to me. So, but yeah, definitely just trying to look at music full-time and see what I can make of it, you know. And
right, exactly.
I'm not 30 yet, so I feel like this is a good decision. I still have 6 months till I'm 30, so this is kind of my mess around era right now. So
right now, in the past, I've interviewed Emily White. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, so, and she's got that great resource, the How to Build a Sustainable Music Career, Collect All Revenue Streams. Have you dived into any of that and tried to?
Absolutely, yeah. My girlfriend was the one that my girlfriend Nora turned me onto that book, and my girlfriend Nora is a much better reader than I am, so that's pretty tight because she made all of these notes on how to do all of these different things. And it really came in handy when it was time to launch this project. So shout out to Emily White, man. I mean, she knows what she's doing, man. And you can read through it a million times, that book, and listen to her podcast. And it's just the amount of knowledge that you can absorb is just crazy. And yeah, big props to her, man. She seems like an awesome person too. And I know a lot of people that I know in the scene have nothing but amazing things to say about her. So
yeah, it's great to have, and then she's from Wisconsin as well, so it's just great. All these great Wisconsinites are doing all these great things for the local scene and beyond. So awesome, very awesome.
Hell yeah.
The next thing is a gig that you have performed at or seen that has made a big impression on you.
Oh man, as far as gigs I've seen, I feel I don't know. I feel like every gig I go to, I mean, I'm just always in awe. Um, Even especially like bigger names, but even locally, man, it's cool to see people on their grind. I think my favorite artist to see in the Milwaukee area is Classic. He's a really good friend of mine too, so I'm not just being biased, but I wholeheartedly think he's the most talented guy I've ever gotten to see do anything. So he's amazing. If you haven't seen him live or had a chance to talk to him or anything,
Yeah.
let me know. I'd love to link you guys up because there's a reason why he's won like every award in the city of Milwaukee as far as music goes. He's just amazing, and he's easily one of the most kind-hearted and just awesome people to like have in your circle too. So
Very cool. Yeah, definitely.
and then as far as shows I've played that have made a big impression, yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, I've really enjoyed every show that we've played as a full band and that I've done as like a loop artist too. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we just played at Oak Brewing last night. It's our second time playing there. That's an amazing venue. I love seeing what they've done with their stage setup and like their sound dampening as well as like the lights. They've really put a lot into that place, and I feel like, yeah, it's probably one of the best stages to play around. So,
And where's that located? That's in Milwaukee, right?
it's in West Dallas.
Oh, West Dallas. Okay. So
Yeah, just 20 minutes away.
yeah, there you go. Everything's 20 minutes away from Milwaukee, right?
Yeah, totally.
And if you had a time machine and could go back and talk to your younger self, any advice you'd give yourself?
Yeah, man. I would just tell myself to keep messing up, because the more you mess up, the better of a musician you become. And yeah, you just got to mess up, man. You just got to keep messing up and don't take it personally. Just get it over with. And as you continue to work on all of these things, like, you eventually just get a lot better. So just keep messing up and keep your chin up through it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great advice because, I tell my students, I'm a band director at the high school, and I tell them failure is just stepping stones to success. Eventually, it's going to click, and eventually you're going to become better at what you're working at.
Yeah, totally. No, I couldn't agree with that more. I think even if you're self-taught or if you're taught at a higher level, like you gotta get your 10,000 hours in there before you can really just start crushing stuff, and yeah, you just got to keep messing up, man, because that's what makes all the difference.
Exactly. Is there anything that you want the listeners to know before I let you go?
Follow me on Instagram at Dak Dubois. It's just DAKDUBOIS. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I know, I plan on doing a tour here in a few months, probably. Yeah, and whatever city you're at, check out the music and check out Instagram, because I'm really good at making sure that I stay up on content. You can kind of get a little bit more feel for what the live shows are like, and they're definitely crazy. I just want to make sure everybody has an incredible night anytime they come out and see us. So yeah.
Excellent. And I'll put all the links down. I'll put your link tree down in the details of the show so people can just click on that and go right to all your social media and your website. So, Doc, thank you so much for being on the Wisconsin Music Podcast. It's been great talking to you, learning about all your music stuff, and just thanks so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it too.
Well, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Once again, I'm Zach Fell, your host and creator of the Wisconsin Music Podcast, where I love to amplify the great sounds coming out of the Wisconsin state. We have great talent here, great support, great listeners. Thanks to Fox Cities Indie Radio for syndicating this on Wednesdays and Sundays, along with their other great programming. So make sure you check out the Fox Cities Indie Radio. Thanks to Doc Dubois for being on this week's show. Check him out. All links are in the episode descriptions. He has 2 performances in this month of March of 2024. First one is on the 15th at Three Sheeps Brewing Company in Sheboygan. The other one is on the 30th of March, which is at the Cooper Ridge in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If you'd like to be on the show, just go to wisconsinmusicpodcast.com, fill out the guest request form up at the top, ask for your email and your name, and then I'll send you an auto email asking you for more information. If you are enjoying these episodes, please consider donating to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Donations help pay for the website and putting the podcast up on streaming services, and also getting our name out there to all Wisconsinites and others that are interested in our great music here in Wisconsin. Donations are secure through PayPal and Stripe. All you have to do is go to the website and click on Donate to WMP. You can also head over to our Instagram and Facebook pages and like us there. Leave some comments. Also go to the podcast review section of your podcast player and leave a 5-star review. Would be great. You can also head over to YouTube and watch the interviews and leave comments there as well. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.